It is time. It has been over a year. Around Memorial Day 2016 is when this series begun. And about 3 weeks ago, it became the longest running Let's Play series on this channel. But also recently, I just found out that the World Class Championship Wrestling series has gotten to a year. Both these being the case, it's time. We have finally reached the series finale of WCW 2000 and the final Nitro before WCW Slamboree. So without further ado, let's jump right in to WCW Monday Nitro. And let's kick off the finale of Let's Play WCW. We kick it off with Ray and Conan going up against the Blue Bloods, and Ray and Conan get the victory over Steven Regal and Dave Taylor in the opening match on this week's episode of Nitro to put a new variation of the Filthy Animals up in the tag team contention. This way maybe the Animals can get back the belts from Chronic. But either way, but speaking of Filthy Animals, the seeds have been planted as Kidman and Dean Malenko's long-standing history, partially due to their run with Dean's part with the Revolution and Kidman's part with the Filthy Animals. Their feud is starting to kick off again. Their problems are starting to kick up again as Kidman wants the Cruiserweight title and Malenko wants to protect his investment. And that's why this happens. Dean Malenko costs Billy Kidman the match and allows Taka Michinoku to become #1 contender to face Malenko this Sunday for the Cruiserweight title at Slamboree. Speaking of Sunday at Slamboree, the American Nightmare makes his way to the ring and challenges Diamond Dallas Page for the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He challenges Diamond Dallas Page to a match this Sunday at Slamboree. I know it's been a while, just a little bit of a refresher. I don't even remember why they were feuding, but I know that they had their problems with one another. I actually think I may have ended the feud, but I'm going to keep the feud going for one more pay-per-view and top it off at the finale. Speaking of topping things off, the Nature Boy Ric Flair defeats Stevie Ray, and in apparently what was a good match, what would have been a really good match had Stevie Ray actually had a good in-ring performance, because the bout had fantastic heat and good wrestling. So, if the in-ring performance was better, it would have gotten a higher rating. But what I meant by what I said to start is that Ric Flair now. Gene Okerlund enters the ring following Flair's victory, and Flair dishes about his plans for this upcoming pay-per-view Slamboree and lays out an open challenge. He's giving anybody 1 week's time to accept the challenge to step into the ring with the greatest of all time, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, on pay-per-view. And not just anybody in the WCW, but anybody active in professional wrestling that wants to test themselves against the best. Speaking of Dean Malenko, Dean defends his Cruiserweight title against the man who beat Lance Storm last week, La Parka. And Dean, of course, gets the victory, heading into his title match against Taka Michinoku this Sunday at Slamboree. Speaking of Sunday at Slamboree, Rick Steiner and Mike Rotunda will be challenging Chronic for the WCW Tag Team titles, and this sets the stage with a win, with Rick Steiner defeating one half of the tag champions Brian Clark in this match. And speaking of Sunday, the NWO talk about how they will end Hulkamania this Sunday with Big Papa Pump going against Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in the main event. And now Kurt Hennig competes again like last week, as Kurt Hennig's trying to get his wind back, not wins, wind back after spending some time on the shelf. And it seems like a feud is developing between him and Booker T. As he says, Booker will never be a top guy. He will always be just that type of guy who's right on the cusps, but could never take that next step to break through that ceiling and become a star. Booker T, we move to a highlight package showing the feud that has been developing since his return. The feud between Hulk Hogan and the New World Order. And then we move to the main event as Sid Vicious goes up against Sting. And yes, I actually chose Sid Vicious to defeat Sting for one reason and one reason only, and that is because Sting is going to start feuding with Jarrett. And the show ends with a heated confrontation between Sting and Jeff Jarrett, where Sting is down on the mat selling the chokeslam, and Jeff Jarrett standing over him, saying an inaudible statement to Sting. But even if you can't hear what he said, he still makes his intentions clear, and a statement heard all around the Desert Sun Stadium that Jeff Jarrett wants a piece of Sting's ass, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be seeing Sting in the ring against Jeff this Sunday. But either way, we increased our popularity in 23 regions with a final rating of a 76 for the final Nitro in the WCW 2000 Let's Play, as we head to Slamboree this Sunday live on pay-per-view. When you need to get back on the horse, it's time to get back on the horse, because we have arrived at Slamboree. And I'm just going to say this, that the reason why you didn't see any simulation is because I did it off camera. Because I also had to do Saturday night, and I didn't want to do that on camera, so I did it off camera instead. Now we move. We keep going. WCW World Tag Team titles. Bryan Adams and Brian Clark retain the belts. I still have the world title match listed. You know what, I'm going to hold that off for now. I don't know what I want to do with it yet. You too. 20. Let's go 22 minutes. No, let's break it down even more. 19 minutes. Okay, let's see if I can figure out a way that Scotty could beat Hulk Hogan. Oh, like that. Okay. That works. And I'm just gonna pull Steiner from the feud. Okay. Sting. Jeff Jarrett is not going to happen. So instead I'm going to go Perry Saturn versus Canyon for the World Television title. Okay. This is what's going to happen instead of the United States title match. Mike Awesome is going to jump Eddie Guerrero, which calls the match off. Jeff Jarrett. Kevin. They talk about Sting. They want him to, be aware of what he's doing. Sting is playing mind games with Jarrett. Okay, Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. Sting. And yes, by the end of the night, Scott Steiner will have a new feud, but I'm just saving that for last. Okay. Package. Liz and Gene. They're talking about Booker. Package says he beat Booker once and will do it again. Package wants to be unscripted, and I'm going to let him. Okay. Booker T, Gene, Kurt Hennig, and the total package. Booker talks about his issues with Hennig and how he needs to focus on package tonight. And that's exactly what he's going to do as Booker T, the total package. And Booker T gets the win over Package. The only problem is that Booker has an offer on the table from WWE, which means Booker T could be on his way out in the not too distant future. The only positive thing is this season ain't gonna last much longer. How is that a positive? Well, then I don't have to care about it if I lose Booker T or not. One match that's going to be extremely hard-hitting is Bam Bam Bigelow versus Steve Williams for the WCW Hardcore title. Oh yeah. Ric Flair comes out, addresses his open challenge. I'm gonna put it here, right in the middle. Okay, now let's see who I can find. Huh. Surprisingly, at his age, he's still really good. But it's just the idea, do I want to bring him in and have him face Ric Flair? Like, do I really want to get fucking... I don't think so. I think I'm going to go with somebody on the roster. I think I'm going to go with a young kid on the roster. Johnny the Bull Stamboli takes up this opportunity to try and wage war on the Nature Boy. But either way, something's going to happen right now. And it involves Scott Steiner's next feud. Roddy Piper, Nick Patrick, what the fuck are all these goddamn referees? Let's go Scott Hudson. Referee. Who the fuck are my referees? Jim Duggan. And you. I mean, there's just a whole host of people, half the locker room empties, because Goldberg is back and wants a piece of Scott Steiner, and it starts tonight. Their feud begins tonight. Scott Steiner versus Bill Goldberg. It all starts tonight. And I'm going to even throw the feud down. Scott Steiner, Goldberg, one-on-one. And now we jump into the final part, with Sid Vicious getting the victory in the Battle Royal on the pre-show. And Bam Bam Bigelow getting his 13th straight successful title defense as WCW Hardcore Champion we are live from the Fleet Center in Boston. And Bam Bam opens Slamboree 2000 with a successful title defense. And now we move to the backstage area, and as I mentioned before, Kevin and Scott warned Jeff for starting a battle he may not win against the Stinger. And now we move to the television title defense. Perry Saturn against Canyon two former Ravens flock members, and Saturn retains his World TV belt against Canyon. And now a match that was supposed to happen between United States Champion Eddie Guerrero and Mike Awesome is not gonna happen, as Eddie begins to make his way to the ring, and he is assaulted by the challenger, Mike Awesome. And it seems to be that the match is off between Awesome and Eddie Guerrero. What does the future hold for the U.S. title division, and what does it hold for the future between these two men? Well, what I can tell you is a gimmick match at Bash at the Beach. And now we move to the first interview of the week of the show, as the Package and Elizabeth are with Mean Gene Okerlund, and Package is talking about his match tonight against Booker T, and all he simply says is, or one of the things he brings up, is the fact that he beat Booker already. He'll have no trouble doing it again. Solid segment, though. Now we move to the third of 6 title defenses tonight, as once again the champions retain the titles, with Chronic defending the titles against the Varsity Club and retaining against Steiner and Rotunda, the Varsity Club. And now, as you saw, the last thing that I booked, Ric Flair's Open Challenge match, as Nate is ready to step into the ring against anybody backstage, and it is accepted. By Johnny the Bull Stamboli. And Nate wins via an inside cradle. That's an interesting finish. I don't think I've seen a Ric Flair match finish with an inside cradle in a very long time, especially one where Ric Flair is actually the one doing the inside cradle. I mean, I don't mind the finish. It's just an interesting finish because I expected him to win via the figure 4 leg lock, if anything. And I will also say this, that yes, you may be sitting here thinking, Flair's getting an 82 in ring performance at his age? I'm surprised too. But what I can say is, yes, Nate has what it takes to be world champion again, but the question is, what does the company gain from having Nate as world champion again, unless Nate as world champion is to have Ric Flair put over somebody else. Put over a young star, give them the Ric Flair stamp of approval, and let them lead the charge, because at this point in his career, I think Flair could be world champion, but should not be the franchise of the company. Now we move to another video package. As the show is drawing to a close, as we have DDP and the American Nightmare's history highlighted before their match, and Dally gets the victory over the Nightmare. And another odd finish as Paige beats him via submission, which, once again, I don't remember the last time Paige won a match via submission, so a lot of oddball finishes on this show. Speaking of submission, Dean Malenko retains his Cruiserweight title with his second successful title defense this week. After beating La Parka on Nitro, he also beat Taka Michinoku tonight at Slamboree to keep the WCW Cruiserweight title around his waist. And now we move to Booker T standing by with Gene Okerlund as Gene asks Booker about his issues with Kurt Hennig. And Booker says, tonight I need to put those issues aside, Gene. I need to put those issues aside and forget whatever problem Kurt Hennig obviously has with me. And I need to focus on beating the total package and moving on from package to Kurt Hennig. And Booker does exactly that with a victory over the total package, his biggest win to date and the biggest win of his career so far, as a singles competitor, because to this point he has not held the victory over a former world champion until now. And yes, I do know that there was a better way to go to protect myself, because as I mentioned, Booker T could be leaving and could be heading up north to the WWF. But as I also mentioned, that this is very likely the end of this series as a whole, where I'm not even going to continue it on my own. So it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go the route that I would have went had Booker stayed. Instead of anticipating him leaving, I'm going to try and be optimistic. And now we move backstage to the NWO locker room, where the lights go down in the locker room. Jeff Jarrett's in there by himself, because Kevin and Scott are out of the room. Steiner's preparing for his main event against Hogan. And Bret Hart isn't at the arena tonight. And Jeff Jarrett is just in there. The lights go down. And the reflective scorpion shows up on the wall. And Jeff's like, ha ha ha, very funny. Very funny, Scott, very funny, Kev. Come on out. Very funny. And Jeff's just deep breathing now as the mind games have begun between Jeff Jarrett and Sting. As I slowly build to a match between Jeff and Sting. And now we move to the main event, as Scott Steiner successfully defends his WCW World Heavyweight title against Hulk Hogan. In a solid main event, if I do say so myself. And I will also mention that I am very, very, very proud of what I've been able to accomplish with Scott Steiner since the start of this season over the last 5 months. And the fact that Scotty's up at an 89 in-ring performance and is doing better in the ring than Sting, Hulk, Rick it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how good Scotty Steiner has been doing. And as I mentioned, also, a familiar face has returned as Goldberg makes his long-awaited return to the WCW following that mishap with a limousine. And he has the WCW World Heavyweight Champion in his crosshairs, and he is ready to pursue Scotty Steiner and show just exactly how dominant he is and how much Steiner has been missing. And how that it means a lot beating those who he has. But Goldberg is on a level all his own, and maybe, just maybe, now the feud between the NWO and Goldberg can finally happen without limousines present. Because the feud between Scotty Steiner and Goldberg has officially begun. An 80 final rating gives us an increase in popularity in 44 regions, and a very, very good show in my opinion. as WCW Let's Play WCW 2000 comes to a close. And what I will say is this, that over the summer, Scott Steiner and Goldberg would be feuding with one another. If Booker T is staying, if Booker T ends up, basically what I was thinking about doing is playing into the Booker T Kurt Hennig thing, with Kurt Hennig costing Booker T his match against the Total Package again. But I don't know. I feel like moving forward now, where we start setting up Kurt Hennig and Booker T, is the better way to go. I'm just hoping Booker sticks around. And yes, if you're wondering, with Goldberg back, this could open the door for Goldberg and Sid Vicious, and it could also open the door for Goldberg and Bam Bam Bigelow, as insurance policies to the NWO may start coming forward. Other than that, Nate was going to still be present. Hulk Hogan's feud with Bret Hart was going to continue, and the rest of the NWO was going to continue. Over the summer, or into the summer, I should say, Eddie and Mike Awesome were going to wrap up soon. I'm just really going over what the plans were, because plans were in place. Kidman and Malenko for the Cruiserweight title. I really didn't have a plan for Bam Bam Bigelow as Hardcore Champion, Perry Saturn as TV Champion, Chronic with the tag belts. But the important titles, I know. Oh, you had a plan for the Cruiserweight title, but you didn't have a plan for the other three? Well, to be fair, the television title technically wasn't a title anymore at this point, and I brought it back from the dead to help people like Perry Saturn have more meaning. To be fair, if I had to guess, I had been harping on the idea of turning Mike Rotunda heel and having him pursue the television title. So that still could have been a possibility, but not necessarily anymore. I'm not sure what I would do. But there is a possibility that I may open the door back up as an inside TW. I doubt it, because I think after this, I'm going to close the door on this series and this database in general, because I loved this. I really enjoyed doing this series, especially when things started taking off like they are right now, and like I am leaving it. Because if you remember back in January when I started this series, I mean January in-game, not January out-of-game, because I started this series last May. This series had much in common with TNA, because both of these series underlying idea was to add stability back to the company. And I feel like at this point, with how much I have established Scott Steiner over the last 5 months, giving him victories now over Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Diamond Dallas Page, that Scott Steiner is an established, credible opponent. I mean, an established main eventer in the WCW, and gives the company a new face, a fresh talent. And also, if Booker T sticks around, that gives him another fresh face. Because right now Booker T is on the cusps. I pray that if I was to stay, I could maintain him, but that's one of the reasons why I'm also closing the door on this series, because I don't want to see him leave. I think he might, and I don't want to see that happen, because I know this company would be a hell of a lot better with him than without him. So with that being the case, for the last time, I hope you enjoyed this series, and I hope you agree with me that if this was real, I'd be leaving this company in a more stable position than it was when I first joined this company. Let me know down in the comment section below what you liked about this series, what you disliked about this series. If you want this series to continue, let me know down in the comment section below. Or if you want me to do an inside TEW look at this series later on, maybe, 4 months down the road, or maybe even at the next pay-per-view. Let me know Also, let me know if you've enjoyed this series, because it may have not looked like it at the end, but I did enjoy doing this series, and I hope you enjoyed me doing it as well. But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like, because as always, feedback is more than welcomed and appreciated. But if you don't want to leave a comment, feedback is always more than welcomed and appreciated. You can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. And maybe next time I won't butcher the outro as bad as I just did. So till then, later.